Sam, making this quick video for this week of September 21st. Big stuff happening, some big news. We have the Pope visiting the United States. Very interesting juxtaposition of things happening in the world right now. This, this very inspiring visit from the Pope. His first stop was in Cuba, which hadn't had a papal visit, I don't know if ever or a long time ago, perhaps. Maybe not ever, I don't remember that, but it was, pretty remarkable. And, he speaks Spanish, he's from Argentina, and so then he's going to come to the United States and he's going to address Congress on Thursday. Now, when we look at the astrology of these times, of course, we have the moon will be going through the section of the sky during the Pope's visit that has to do with Jupiter and Saturn themes. Sagittarius on Monday the 21st, and then it goes up and culminating in Pisces next Monday the 28th. So this section of the sky is where we have signs that are just ruled by Jupiter and Saturn. You want to understand, it's very interesting, because every other section of the sky you have, every other quadrant. This is one of the quadrants. Of course, there are, or actually not a quadrant, but a third, a sort of trimester, I guess you would say, where we have these four signs. Every other section of the zodiac where we have four signs, you have four different planets that rule those signs. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, of course ruled by Mars, Venus, Mercury, Moon, and then Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, ruled by Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars. Now we have Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, ruled by Jupiter, Saturn, Saturn, Jupiter. So why is that significant? Well, it's significant because of what this section of the zodiac represents, and it represents exactly what the Pope is doing, exactly what his visit shows, which is, Sagittarius comes after Scorpio, which is where we face our deep insecurities and stresses and fear, particularly fear of those things we can't control. So facing that sort of, you might say, kind of dark night of the soul in Scorpio, which is the sort of terror of realizing that the things we love are going to be taken away from us, that we don't have any control over them, that leads us to the inspiration of Sagittarius. So notice how, the Pope arrived, or he started his visit actually yesterday when the moon was in Scorpio. Then it's going to continue this week as the moon goes through Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. So here on Monday the 21st, it's in Sagittarius, which again, it's the sign where we look for meaning and purpose and hope after facing those things we can't control and that sort of terror of life. The thing that allows us to overcome that and not be buried by our fears is some hope, some sense of purpose, some religion, something to believe in. And Sagittarius is definitely the sign of religion. And I mean religion, not spirituality, but religion, the thing we believe in. And you might say, well, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, which is what a lot of, especially New Age people say now, because just because they don't have, just because they don't ascribe to a traditional religion, doesn't mean there's not this Sagittarius influence. Because religion is really just what you believe. Doesn't have to be an organized religion. Doesn't have to be Christianity. If you say, well, I've always just believed, well, that's what you believe. Then that's your religion. That's your belief system. So religion is a charged word, just like God is a charged word. Sagittarius is just what you believe. And it doesn't necessarily mean you believe something that's uplifting. It could be a corrupt belief system. Hitler had Moon, Jupiter, Ketu in Sagittarius. Hitler was very driven by his beliefs. He was very much about his beliefs, his belief system, and whatnot. He was very Sagittarian. Doesn't mean his belief was a good one. So, this quality of Sagittarius is just what we believe, and it gives us hope. After the terror of Scorpio, then those beliefs must be brought into the realm of commitment through Capricorn, inner commitment, facing our inner fear. Again, because what happens is we have this big belief in Sagittarius, but then the belief needs to come into the realm of structure, commitment, effort in Capricorn. If it's going to really change us, then as it does change us internally, then we want to bring it out externally and spread the word. This is what Aquarius is about. Spreading beliefs in things that change the world, that are bigger than just ourselves and bigger than just our own individuality. That's what Aquarius is about, where we bring those things that we believe into the world of ideas, into the world of culture, and align with things that will outlive us. That's the nature of Aquarius. And again, it's Saturn ruled, because Saturn rules Aquarius, fixed air, fixed ideas, and structures that benefit culture, where we make a commitment to ideas that are bigger than just our little life. Ideas that outlive us. So again, it starts with the inspiration of Sagittarius, the purpose, the meaning. Oh, there's this great thing. That's what it is. That's what life is about. That's the meaning. That's what Jupiter's about. Meaning, purpose, which gives us direction. Very Sagittarius. Not Pisces, Sagittarius. Pisces doesn't really have direction. Again, this is the difference. Sagittarius is very clear. That's why it's related to things like religion or whatever we believe that gives us a direction. But again, if it's going to be a consistent direction, we need to have it, we actually need to make it real, which is what Capricorn is about. It might inspire us in Sagittarius, but then it needs to transform our tangible fears and our fear of death and whatnot in Capricorn. Then once we deal with it on that level, then it can come out and actually benefit everyone. In Aquarius, and then Pisces is where we let go of it all, because Aquarius is still where we are very much aligned with all of the wins and losses, gains and defeats of the world. Trying to make the world a better place, we see ourselves as a universal being of the world, not of the universe, but of the world, where our individuality becomes an instrument for social good or for things that outlive us. But Pisces is where we kind of let go of the whole thing. Let go of even the idea that I'm this individual in culture. Instead, in Pisces, that's where we really let go. You have to understand the difference. This is why I really draw out the distinctions between the masculine and the feminine qualities of the planets as being expressed through the signs. Pisces is very different than Sagittarius. Pisces is not about this direction. It's about dissolving direction. It's kind of directionless. Sagittarius is shooting the arrow, bam, right at something. Pisces is two fish, kind of like a lack of direction, many times. Because Pisces is where we surrender and let go of even the idea that me as this individual is of service to culture. Even all of that, culture, the world, the gains and losses of the world, where we feel like our energy is finished. Even with the world and us as a universalized citizen. Pisces is truly what we would call mystical, not religious, mystical, where we let go even of the idea that, this is the purpose of my life and the goal and the thing that inspires me. That becomes even a murky proposition at times in Pisces, because we're connected through the heart to the pulse of existence. where we feel in our heart that divine will, that divine flow, that divine continuum. Pisces is also the last sign, so all of the other signs have led to that place where in Pisces we can tend to feel like, well, it doesn't really matter what I do, it's all going to happen anyway. And that can tend to make us fatalistic and just kind of at the mercy of the tides, like the fish who stop swimming and just kind of getting knocked around. And obviously, like I said, in the highest sense, it's really about surrender, letting go. So this Pope's visit corresponds with the moon going through this part of the zodiac. I'm going to do a full thing on his chart a little later in the week because it's a pretty amazing chart. It's a very good case study in dashas, obviously, because we seem to have a good birth time as well. His birth date is December 17th, 1936 at 9 p.m. I'm sure that's not exactly right, but you could probably tweak it a few minutes here and there in Argentina. And so he's got all, every planet except his Ketu in the first house and his Mars in the fourth house are in Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Aquarius. So again, in many ways, not like you would say this is the crowning achievement of his, quote, career or his life or whatever, but it's not surprising that the moon is going through all of those planets in his natal chart as he visits the United States, and it's in his Mercury-Saturn-Moon cycle. And so this is happening, this hope and this kind of inspired visit is happening concurrent with just a lot of dark, crazy energy. One of the reasons why I'm talking about this more than some of the dark, crazy stuff is because there is so much dark, crazy stuff right now. In particular, it's very hard to not just look at what's happening in the Republican political race here in the United States and just somewhat be aghast at the level of racism and xenophobia and just absolute warmongering, distorted, polarized, incompetent people. I'm sorry to put it that way, but just the rhetoric on that side. One of the reasons why, there are a few big reasons for his rise. One of them is simply because the right-wing part of the Republican Party has just completely hijacked the entire party. They're becoming laughably irrelevant. Because the options, the moderate Republican candidates now have to take these utterly fanatical positions just to compete. This whole thing is destroying any moderate candidate like Jeb Bush or John Kasich, which are really the only two, and Chris Christie. Those three are and they're by far the most qualified. And they have to go along with these radical positions just to stay in line with the talking points of the Republicans now, because they've pushed that party so far to the right with the Tea Party and all of this stuff. I'm saying this because it's just stunning to hear all of this stuff about Muslims and people still saying that Obama is a Muslim and Donald Trump not even saying it, not even correcting him, and just all of the spin that has come as a result of that, and all of this xenophobic attacking immigrants and China and Mexico, and this whole incredibly crazy political backdrop in comparison to something like the Pope, which some people, because they have their ideas that, well, the Pope is also a patriarchy and all. Look, I get all of that, but I get all of the downside of the Pope. But when you look at what this particular Pope is trying to do, it's sort of hard to say that he's not at least the best that could come out of that, the Catholic Church. I mean, he's actually taking on these issues. He's taking on these conservative talking points and talking about how, you know, it's not all about money, and it's, you know, again, the reason I'm talking about this right now is because we're also in an eclipse season and the nodes are very much about shaking things up. And you're seeing this revolutionary, radical Pope in all of the position. I mean, the Pope is much more radical than even, you know, even some of the Democrats in this country who are supposed to be liberal. He's more liberal, and he's a Pope, talking about these social issues, and he's very unpopular. I mean, he's really rubbing a lot of these conservatives, especially in this country, the wrong way, because they're supposed to be the party of Jesus, and you have this Pope who's coming, and he's very public about things like global warming and not just having capitalism run the world and taking care of poor people and minimum wage and all of these things that, if you listened to the Republican debate last week, you wouldn't have thought that they would agree with anything the Pope has to say. So it's a very strange juxtapositioning of energies getting turned upside down. And we're in an eclipse cycle. We're in the middle of this eclipse week. And like I said a couple weeks ago, it's the sun that's being eclipsed, which is a sign of the government. Not just governments, but also, you know, the church is like a government. I mean, it is its own country, the Vatican. And especially in the Middle Ages, the church was the most powerful centralized government there was in Western culture. So the Pope is he's like a king. He's not even like a president. He's like a king. But a king of religion, the king of the Christian religion. And so it's fascinating to see in this eclipse time, with the Pope coming, with these Republican candidates, all of them vying to be the king, most of them unqualified, some utter buffoons. I mean, the most, you know, visible and the one who's been leading is a buffoon on some level. And, you know, that's just, if you listen to his words, he's so unqualified. I'm talking about Trump. And, you know, the rise of some others now are going to show him starting to lose favor. But like I talked about, this eclipse shows where Leo is becoming Virgo, where the king and the kingdom and the leaders are going to be scrutinized now. If you listen to my forecast about the eclipse, I talked about that, where we're going to be looking at our leaders and looking at people and expecting them to have the right information and scrutinizing what they've done with the power. And in the eclipse video I did last week, I also talked about, like, for instance, Hillary Clinton and the email scandals and Bernie Sanders and what he's done. There's not really a lot of scandals around him right now, but, you know, we're going to start expecting and demanding that these leaders and the people who have power start to delegate it, and, you know, we're going to look at how they handled power when they had it. Just like Ms. Fiorina, by all accounts, won the debate last week that the Republicans had. But right away we start looking at her, okay, well, what did you do when you were in business? Right? We're really putting her under the microscope. Now we're nitpicking I'm recording this on Monday, and this Ben Carson came out and said that, you know, that no Muslim should be president. I mean, it's against the Constitution. It's in the Constitution that you can't have a litmus test for religion to determine public office. But again, they're just spinning this stuff now. They're not even paying attention to these facts. And again, I'm saying this because we're in this eclipse cycle, and it's getting revealed, it's getting worked out. The reason I'm talking about this isn't just because I want to spew my political views. And again, it's remarkable to me that anyone cannot see how insane the dialogue is right now. But I'm saying this because this is what we're working through. This is shown by the eclipse. We're working through it now. And it's getting revealed. We're seeing the light of day on this. We're seeing this hypocrisy is getting absolutely shown to us. And it's a great opportunity There's an enormous opportunity for the light. The light is getting brighter. And just like when you turn that light on really bright, you see all the roaches in the corner. You see all the dark, seedy, unseemly, bigoted, racist crap hanging out. And again, regardless of what I would think of any politician, okay, it's unthinkable. Let's say 10 years ago. 10 years ago in the United States, it would have been unthinkable to imagine that we would have elected a black president. For whatever people think about Obama, I'm not saying he's great. I'm not a huge fan. A lot of potential, and is an intelligent man, but a lot of the same old with him. But as a symbol of what he represents, and these other people as a symbol of what they represent, which is what I'm talking about, it's remarkable to think that we elected a black man 7 years ago to be president, and the kind of pre-anointed front runner to be the next president is a woman. Everyone is comparing themselves to Hillary Clinton. Trump against Clinton. Trump against, Sanders against Clinton. Clinton is like, and she's been the pre-anointed front runner for a year, and it's a woman. I mean, this is progress for sure in our world. So we have to see it that way. And we're seeing the dark backlash to the people who are losing their grip on the oligarchy. One of the things, again, just to say, I'm going to keep going with politics here a little bit because it shows. And I do follow this because it shows our world. I think it's great to see the Pope coming now. And again, it's like the paradigm is flipped upside down. And this Pope is amazing because he, last year he put together this remarkable symposium of spiritual leaders. One of them was my spiritual teacher, Amma. I mean, he is totally about breaking down and dissolving boundaries of religion and all of these conservative walls that were around the Christian church or around these churches. He is totally about abolishing and getting rid of all of these walls. He's totally a man who is trying to bring together all spiritual traditions and leaders. I mean, he had this symposium of religion last year where it was Amma, and then this Zen Buddhist monk, and then, from from Islam, and bringing together all the religions of the world. This is remarkable. It's remarkable. So we have these things even in traditional pockets of power and spirituality now in the world where the light is very bright. But of course, as the light is bright, we're going to see the darkness in the corners as well. And so, hang in there with that. It's shown in the astrology. We're in this eclipse where the bastions of power, the halls of power, like government, leaders, again, the Pope is like a king. Okay, he's not like, oh, well, he's a spiritual leader, he's not a government. Baloney. He's got as much power as any government. And we're looking at how are these people handling their power? What are they doing with their power? What are they communicating? And this is why, again, why a lot of people in the Republican Party and leaders around the world are not so happy with the way the Pope handles his power. And they're criticizing him. Virgo is about criticism and scrutiny. And scrutinizing what people say, what they did, holding them accountable. So this eclipse is between Leo and Virgo. It's that energy. And so, there was a thing in the New York Times where somebody said, or maybe it was Time Magazine, they said why they're going to boycott the Pope's address to Congress. A lot of congressmen and whatnot saying, I hope the Pope, why doesn't he stick to politics? Why is he talking, why doesn't he stick to religion? Why is he talking politics? Again, you'd have to be unthinking to say, well, why don't you stick to politics and stop talking about religion? You see how these things are just getting mixed. Up on that stage on the Republican debate, they don't like that the Pope is talking about politics. Well, maybe people don't like that they're talking about religion. Everything to them is about religion. That people should be able to break the law because it goes against their religion. And the law, what? That the Supreme Court decided that gay people have the same rights as straight people. That it's a constitutional right of all people to get married. That's the law that has the Republicans so outraged. And that somebody should be able to subvert that law because of their personal beliefs. And it's not just, you know, this person is a clerk who is who is making, you know, who has the capacity to deprive a person of their legal right to be married. We're not talking about, again, these issues get conflated because you have other people that say, well, if you're in a private business, you should have the right to refuse to, let's say if you're a florist, you know, cater a wedding or give flowers to a gay couple's wedding. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think every business should have the right to do business with who they want. I do. I don't accept everybody who wants to do business with me. It has nothing to do with their sexual orientation, but we should have the right to say, well, I don't want to do business with you because I don't. If it's for a religious reason, then a private individual should have the right to do that. That's what I think. But not a public servant. My right to not infringe upon my, you know, held beliefs, if they start to infringe on your right to, like, get a marriage license, then that's very different. Then you need to lose your job. Find another line of work. That's different than a private business where, you know, nobody should be forced. The government shouldn't force people to do business with other people. I do agree with that. And there are probably civil laws on the books that I think should be changed. Maybe surprise you if you're still listening. I'm not as liberal as people might think. I mean, I'm very liberal, but I believe in personal freedom. And I don't think the government should tell people that you have to do business with somebody, for instance, that you don't want to do business with. But like the instance of this clerk, she's not a private business. She works for the government. So you don't have the right to subvert the law. Anyway, at least in that regard. So, without making it too political, but, you know, I am doing it because that's who I am, and it is shown in the astrology, and I find it to be quite interesting. So, these things are being juxtaposed right now. They're being juxtaposed between, you know, looking at secular and religious and all of these things coming together. And I said, by the way, very clearly when Jupiter went into Leo that we were going to see a strong backlash against those court decisions. And I mainly talked about the gay rights one and even the conservative ones, like, you know, the other one that happened was the was about the burning of about the flag. But that principle that, you know what, you know, the conservative backlash was going to come because of all that conservatism and those conservative judgments that came when Jupiter and Venus were in Cancer in the early part of July, late June and early July, that when Jupiter went into Leo, pretty soon we were going to see a backlash, and we have. This is where this is coming from. So, again, an interesting week with the moon going through Jupiter and Saturn ruled signs. The Pope addresses Congress on the 24th, and the moon is going to be very close to his natal moon. Because he's got Venus and the moon in Capricorn. That's where the moon is going to be when he addresses Congress. So I'm going to do a whole thing on his chart also. But I'm making this video because of the very transformative, vibrant, you know, excited times that we're living in between this solar and lunar eclipse. And all of these themes of Virgo, Pisces. Again, Pisces is the sign of a pope, a pontiff, a pope, a spiritual leader. Virgo is about the strict interpretation of Scripture and those kinds of things. The details. And Pisces is about, dissolve the boundaries. That's what this pope has been doing. He's been remarkable. Dissolving all the boundaries. So anyway, leave me some messages. Let me know what you think.